or liked every time, but could be dull. Please do comment that people do comment that I speak slowly and lack of interest, though it seems to me that I'm more calmer and contented. How do I reduce clinging to the states of defilements?
So you are saying that you're getting dull, is that what you're saying in meditation? Is that the main defilement there? The dullness?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Could be dull. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not so much the clinging to the defilements, it's more like, you know, we don't normally cling so much to them. It's just a matter of overcoming them. Yeah, it is like seeing where the problems are very often. And very often what you will find is that if you look carefully, it will be in the realm of either you have ill will or negativity, or you have very strong attachments towards something. These are kind of the two main problems usually. And of those, look in the area of ill will, because if you look in the area of ill will, then that is an area where the defilements are fairly easy to overcome. So see if you can increase your metta, your kindness, you can increase your compassion in the world. Those are kind of two of the critical things. And if you can increase that in the way you think about people, but also in the way you act towards people, then very often the tiredness, the slothfulness, and these kind of things will then actually start to, gradually disappear, and the mind becomes brighter. And the bright mind, the energized mind, is really the one that is very powerful. It is nice to be calm, but calm does not always mean bright. Calm can mean slothful calm, tired calm, lack of energy calm. And all of that can be nice. It is not all that useful. The really good mind is the energized calm. Energy, calm, brightness coming together. And to do that, sometimes you have to focus mostly on just kindness and compassion. These are very powerful supports for this.
Ajahn, I find it difficult to blend in with people, be it in an organization or in the community, and people don't understand me and why I behave in a weird way. And I sometimes want to be left alone in my own space and not bother about outside. Is it a problem of loneliness, longing for something that is just aren't there all along, and wanting a sense of belonging or place of security? All that I desire and wanting, a place that we feel safe and sound. I know we take refuge in the triple gem and have faith, but it still doesn't work. Just felt more confused and empty. My mindfulness not yet fully established and feeling just overpowered and override sometimes.
Yeah. I think, we are so different as human beings, and so there are some people who don't fit in so easily because they think a little bit differently or they act a little bit differently. So a lot of these things, a lot of these misunderstandings, basically we need to be more open to each other, more open to diversity, more open to different ways of being, not judge each other so fast. So be kind to yourself. Don't judge yourself because you don't fit in. It doesn't mean that anything wrong with you. It just means that you have a different way of thinking, of being in the world, and that's okay. If you feel that other people don't appreciate you, appreciate yourself. You are worthy of appreciation. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. The fact that you are here taking part in this means that you are worthy of kind thoughts, of kindness by other people, of compassion and understanding. So have those qualities for yourself if you find other people don't have it. And then when you have it for yourself, you will actually find that you are more at ease in the world when you do that. And you will start to find like-minded people. If you are interested in the Dhamma, at least to some extent, I guess you must be to some extent, otherwise you wouldn't be here, then hang out a little bit with Dhamma people. You're doing that now already, but maybe do it a bit more. And maybe you will find someone who is a bit like-minded, who thinks a bit like you. Because people who have a deeper interest in spirituality are not that common. It's quite rare to find people who have a deep interest in spirituality. And many people find us strange. Yeah, we are weird in the world. People look at us and think, what is wrong with you? You can imagine what they look, if they think they look at you in a strange way, imagine what they look at me like. Yeah, they think that I'm a complete weirdo. And sometimes when I just walk about, I don't walk about in the city very much, but sometimes I happen to walk about in the city. And sometimes people just look at you and or they just turn away. They look in a different direction because they are afraid of looking at you. They are afraid you might make eye contact. And that would be scary, to make eye contact with some kind of weird creature walking around in weird clothes and a bald head. Well, that would be really frightening. So people have all kinds of crazy ideas. And after a while, you just shrug your shoulders. You realize, actually, it's not your problem. It is not even their problem. It's been conditioned in a certain way. So you choose people who you feel at ease with. There's always some people in the world you can feel at ease with. And then you develop all these good qualities. Have compassion and kindness for yourself. And then after a while, you start to be kind to people around you because you start to feel more secure within yourself. And you feel that I can be kind to others, even if they are not kind to me. And something magical happens. You know, when you are kind to someone else, you open other people's hearts. We close off to each other when we're not kind to each other. But if someone is really kind to you, usually your heart opens up and you start to feel you feel happy around that person. So kindness is a very, very powerful door opener. So once you start being able to be kind because you have compassion for yourself, doors in the world open up, new relationships are possible, things start to work out. So start with the simple things, start with the things that you can do. And as you do those simple things, somehow things start to evolve and change by themselves, and you're moving in the right direction.
Namo Buddhaya, Ajahn. Can Ajahn clarify the significance of the metta meditation this morning, starting with the east direction and then going south to certain groups of people?
It's just the idea, or is just that, when the Buddha teaches metta in the sutras, he talks about metta to the four directions. So I just follow that idea that the Buddha used in the sutras. So you start with one direction, another direction, and then eventually the whole world, metta everywhere. So it's just the idea in the sutras, the way the Buddha teaches metta, is not to direct it towards individuals, because when you are dealing with individuals, there's all kind of problems arising. How do you feel about them? Do you have any negative views about them? So the Buddha doesn't really have metta towards individuals. There's only one exception to that, and that is in the Kakachupama Sutta, the simile of the saw, where the Buddha says that if you have someone who you find difficult in your life, someone you're having trouble with, you should start with metta there, because we cannot afford to have any enemies on the Buddhist path. We should be friendly towards everyone. So you neutralize the enemy by having metta towards them, and then you can have metta to the whole world. And then the idea is to build up in your mind a quality of seeing something positive in the world, seeing all of these good qualities that we can see in people, seeing the kindness, seeing the generosity, seeing the compassion. And when you can see that in other beings, then you can have metta towards them. What does it mean to have a friend? Well, what it means to have a friend is someone you see good qualities in. A friend is someone you appreciate for the qualities. That's why the word metta is derived from mitta, which it means friend. They are related to each other. So it's like friendliness. That's what metta is. So by seeing the good qualities in others, like a friend, that is where you can have metta. And then you can have a sense of compassion. So you then focus on one direction. You see all the beings there. You remember their good qualities because there is a lot of goodness in the world. We just need to remember that. Don't watch the news too much, because in the news you don't see any of that goodness. All you see is the badness. So forget about the news. Watch the anti-news, not the 9 o'clock news or whatever it is. And in the anti-news, wow, there's lots of really nice stories of what people do. So be more interested in the anti-news. And then you go to the monastic sangha, because in the monastic sangha, there's lots of really exceptional people. So you have metta toward the monastic sangha. Sometimes it can be easy to have metta towards some of these wonderful beings out there, people so full of good qualities. Then you go to the devas. The devas, again, are beings with lots of marvelous qualities, so it's easier. For some people, it might be difficult to have a sense about the devas, but if you have a feeling for the devas, the heavenly or divine beings, it can also be very useful, yeah? The divine beings, beautiful, bright, full of good qualities, and then you place your attention on that. And then lastly, on the animals, because the animals is a place where compassion is usually very well suited, to have compassion for the animals. So one of the things that you do when you do that, you can also recognize where is it most easy for you to have compassion and where is it most easy to have loving kindness. You try the various directions and then you find out what works for you. You can also do metta towards yourself. This is what is recommended in the Visuddhimagga, and I think it is based on a misunderstanding of the suttas, and I think there's very good grounds for that. But if you follow that method, it can all still work, even though it is not in the suttas, doesn't mean it is bad. And so, may I be well and happy. And when you say to yourself, may I be well and happy, for some people it doesn't work, but if it works, it makes you soft and gentle. Yeah, there's a softness about that, wishing yourself happiness. And when you feel soft and gentle and you develop that metta and kindness towards yourself, then you can try to spread it out into the world afterwards. So that is essentially what it is about. This is how the metta meditation really kind of works.
Ajahn, when thoughts come up in our mind while meditating, like practically talking to ourselves and answering ourselves, if it's a solution to a problem, do we entertain that thought during meditation or just go back to anapanasati or do dhammanusati, shift to vipassana, or up to us?
Well, when you think about things in meditation, the thing about when you meditate, sometimes your mind feels more powerful. You feel empowered because you have more clarity, you have more energy in the mind, and so it feels like you have more ability to solve problems. So it's quite common for people to start solving problems when the meditation goes well. It's a very common problem that you solve problems. So you need to solve that problem, right? That is the real problem, is that we solve problems. We need to solve that problem, if you know what I mean. Okay. So how do we do that? And first of all, the answer is that remember the problems of the world are endless. This is kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. There's always another problem behind this problem. It is not as if you ever come to the final problem has been solved. And so if you solve problems in your meditation, you're going to be doing that forever. You're always going to be solving problems. And if you do it forever, you're never going to have any final success or real success in your meditation practice. So one of the things to do is just to remind yourself that that whole world outside, which always is problematic, it always goes on. There is no real solution in that world. There never comes a point when you will be satisfied. That is not where you find solutions. So stop solving those problems. Yeah, now is not the time. Actually, there is no solution anyway, so why resolve those problems? You will just go on forever. And when you lose some of your interest in that world of the five senses, the world of those problems, that is really the critical thing. Lose your interest in that world, then you will stop thinking about those problems. This is the most powerful way, and that's what I would really recommend people to understand, that that world actually is inherently unsatisfactory. Why even be bothered with that world? Let it go. There's nothing of interest there. So when you're doing your meditation, you start to see the problems arising, the solutions coming, then straight away remind yourself there is no solution in that world. Why am I bothering with it? Let it go. Carry on with the meditation. A bit of insight, a bit of wisdom like that is the most powerful way to go. But to be realistic, this doesn't always work, yeah? And especially in lay life, when you are involved with a lot of work and a lot of relationships and all these kind of things, those things, they tend to have an importance. We give them an importance that they don't really deserve, but we can't help ourselves because we are part of that world. So sometimes you need a slightly different strategy. And one of the ways of doing that is that often there are certain problems that are on our mind. And if you suddenly find a solution in your meditation, have a notepad next to you. And if these solutions come up while you're meditating in the first 5 minutes, then make a note of whatever you're thinking of, and then you can forget about it because you know, well, you have made a note so you can remember it afterwards easily, instead of continuing thinking about it because you are afraid of losing it or whatever. So that is one way of, sometimes that works, just writing it down, then letting it go. And then you you find a little bit of a balance between those two worlds, the worlds of spiritual practice and the world of the ordinary world. And that is what lay life really is about anyway. It's about finding the balance between the ordinary world and the spiritual life. It is impossible, very difficult in lay life to fully immerse yourself in the spiritual path in the same way as a monastic, except maybe if you live a very special kind of lay life. Maybe you live by yourself, you just practice all the time, you live almost like a monastic, then maybe you can do it. But for the majority of lay people, that is very hard. So try those two things, and see what happens. Using vipassana and all of that, use wisdom, not vipassana, use specific ways of thinking about the world. Remember that the world is not satisfactory. I think is a much better way than trying to use some kind of vipassana technique where you watch the thought and this kind of things. Maybe it works for a while, but then it comes back again afterwards because you haven't really dealt with the underlying problem that drives the thought, because that is the interest in that world in the first place.
Ajahn, please explain why willpower is not suitable in meditation.
Willpower is not suitable because it is not sustainable. So what willpower does, you try to use to hold something. And the very fact of holding the meditation object tires the mind. If you go to work, you concentrate on the work project all day, that is where you hold your mind onto the work project, that is called willpower. At the end of the day, you are tired. You just want to rest because you are exhausted by having to apply your willpower all the time. Same thing in meditation. If you use willpower, you're actually tiring yourself out. You're not gaining the energy. You're not gaining the bliss that you actually really want to get in the meditation. And then when you tire the mind, you're no longer even able to use the willpower. So the willpower starts to, you have to let go of the willpower, and all of the old conditioning comes back, and you cannot really sustain the meditation anymore. Because willpower just pushes the problem away. That's what willpower does. The moment you release, it's like when you have a kettle that is boiling, you can hold the lid down for a while, but then eventually it's like it explodes, because the pressure inside is so high. In the same way, if you hold the mind together, suppressing the defilements, eventually they explode out again. And when they explode out, they come back with a vengeance. So willpower is a very weak way of overcoming or doing the meditation. So if you stay with a meditation object and then you have some kind of thought which blocks that meditation or stops the meditation, if you are able to use wisdom power to overcome that thought, if you have a negative thought about somebody, you have a bit of ill will or desire, and then you use wisdom power, you think, wait a minute, why am I having this ill will to this person? Why am I doing this and that? And you overcome that through wisdom. Overcoming your obstacles through wisdom is the path to go, because when you use wisdom, you actually eliminate those defilements on a more full basis. They don't come back for a long time afterwards. Don't use willpower. So overcome the problems using wisdom. Then when mindfulness is strong, stay with the object without using willpower. The more easy it is, the more enjoyable it is, the less willpower you have, the more happy it's going to be. You're really going to enjoy the meditation so much more. And then when you enjoy the meditation so much more, then it's going to give results. There is a balance there. There is maybe a little bit of willpower in the beginning. It's hard to say that there is no willpower, But the problem is the vast majority of people use far, far too much willpower. They end up with samadhi headaches and these kind of crazy things. And if you get a samadhi headache, well then, of course, you have messed up quite, that's difficult to let go of afterwards if you use so much willpower. So you let go, allow things to be, enjoy the meditation. That is the real glue. The glue is not the willpower, the glue is the enjoyment that you're having here.
Dear Ajahn, does observing impermanence, fading away and cessation while breathing in and out in samadhi happen by itself, or is there a will to observe?
It happens pretty much by itself. I mean, there is a, one of the things is that when you read the suttas, it's like you're programming the mind. So when you come to the end of the meditation, the mind will just go there because that's what you're supposed to be doing, looking for these things. Yeah, so it's almost automatic. Yeah, you can't really stop yourself, because when the mind is incredibly clear, you come out of a deep state of samadhi, you will know exactly what you're supposed to do because you will remember the teaching. A very clear mind remembers the teaching very easily. Because you remember the teaching, the mind will just do it. The mind is like an obedient dog. Yeah, it just goes wherever you say, woof, woof, and it goes there. Woof, woof, it goes here. This is how the mind works when it's very well trained. It just does whatever it's supposed to do. So is it willpower? It's not willpower in the ordinary sense. I mean, there is a bit of, the mind is kind of shifting, looking here and looking there, but it's not really willpower. It's not what we normally call willpower in ordinary life. It's just a slight movement of the mind, really.
Dear Ajahn, can a lay person attain Nibbana in this life if in his previous life he attained Sakadagami status? Thank you.
If in a previous life you attain Sakadagami status, before I answer that question, Bobby, how many questions have you got, just to have an idea?
Another 5.
Okay, all right. That's not okay. That's good. So let's see. So the thing is that you can attain Nibbana in this life regardless. Yeah, if whether you are Sakadagami in a previous life or Sotapanna in a previous life, or even just a Putujana, if you have not attained anything in a previous life, it is possible to become an arahant in this life as a layperson. But the moment you become an arahant, you are no longer a layperson because you are no longer attached to the world. You don't want to live at home anymore. So you are by definition a monk the moment you become an arahant. Yeah? You cannot really remain as a layperson because you don't want to have a house. You're not interested in that life anymore. That life has already been given up. So you can become an arahant. In fact, there are many examples in the suttas of lay people becoming arahants and then ordaining straight away. Yeah? Straight away they ordain. Like in the suttas, you have Yasa, for example, found in the Vinaya Pitaka. Yasa, one of the first disciples of the Buddha. Yeah? And straight away he listens to the Dhamma, he becomes an arahant, and then he becomes a monk. Yeah? And so the idea is that it is possible as a layperson to become an arahant. One of the ways to become an arahant as a layperson is on your deathbed. Because you become an arahant on your deathbed, it means that you die afterwards. That's why you have this idea that, as a layperson becoming an arahant, you die afterwards, because very often it happens on the deathbed. That's my understanding of that. Or you ordain straight away. So yes, in all situations, whatever it might be, it is theoretically possible for a layperson to become an arahant, but it is also quite unlikely to happen. Yeah, it is quite rare for lay people to get to that point. It's rare among monastics, it's even more rare among lay people.
Ajahn, can you explain what is meant by placing the mind and keeping connected are still?
Okay, so that is the translation by Bhante Sujato of the words vitakka vichara. And if you read the formula for the first jhana, you will see that vitaka, savichara are two of the words in there. It means with vitaka, with vichara. Now, vitaka, vichara, they have different meanings in different contexts. Very often, these words, they mean like thinking and examining something. Yeah, you think that is vitaka, you examine it is vichara. That is kind of the usual meaning of these words. But inside the jhana formulas, they have a slightly different meaning. Yeah? It's more refined. Yeah, it is kind of very refined thoughts, very refined examination. In the second jhana, vitaka, vichara stop completely. That means that the vitaka vichara found in the first jhana is the most refined kind of vitaka vichara that is possible to have. Cannot get more refined than that. So for that reason, it cannot be vitaka vichara in the ordinary sense. It's a very refined version of it. And that refined version is basically just a movement of the mind, or the movement of the mind moving onto the object, moving away, the mind coming together, then kind of coming apart a little bit. Yeah, slight movement of the mind. And that slight movement of the mind is this idea of vitaka vichara. This is the idea of placing the mind on the object, then keeping it connected is vichara, that which holds on to the object. Then it recedes a little bit. Then you place the mind again, holding it. And it's like this wobble, this kind of fluctuation. Yeah, it's very gentle fluctuation that you find inside the first jhana. That is why they call it, Banda Sujata calls it the placing of the mind and keeping it connected. There's many different translations of this. Well, what are some of the other translations? Some of them are like thought and examination. I think that is very misleading. But there is also the translation, the application of the mind. And the application of the mind and the application and sustaining of the mind, something like that. Applied and sustained attention, or something to that effect. That's also quite a common way of translating it. It's the idea, it is like a pre-verbal movement of the mind, not an ordinary movement of the mind at all.
Ajahn, recollecting our virtues like generosity may develop conceit. How does one avoid it?
It is, you know, you have to do it in the right way. You have to do it in a gentle way. You have to do it whereby you just very gently within your own mind, just remind yourself, oh, I did that. Yeah, and it's like you get a warm feeling inside, a good feeling inside when you know that. Remember what it was saying just before, that the very wording that we saw in the sutta before is actually very significant. You say to yourself, wow, I'm so fortunate to be generous. Yeah, how fortunate I am to be a generous person. And when you understand that you are the one who is fortunate and the other people are unfortunate, yeah, they are the ones who are kind of, they haven't got that generosity. You are lucky in a sense. It's not because of you that you are generous. It's because you are lucky to get the right teachers. You are lucky to be a Buddhist. You are lucky to get the right conditions. Yeah, it's nothing to do with you, but you're kind of fortunate in the world. These other people are unfortunate that didn't have the right teacher. There's nothing personal about this. It is just purely a matter of conditioning here. People often think, how can I avoid being conceited? It's a very common idea in the world where people think, yeah, if I am kind to others, I will be conceited and I will look down upon those people who are not kind. And of course, if you think like that, it means that you are not so kind anymore because you're looking down upon these others. Yeah? So you're kind of losing some of your kindness. So how can we avoid that kind of conceit? I am more generous, I am more kind. Well, one of the ways of doing that is to remember that you are not a kind person. You happen to be kind in this moment because all the cause and conditions come together to make you kind, but that is not who you are. The idea of non-self means that we have no essence. You don't have an essence which is kind. You are just a changing phenomena all the time, moving across time, always changing, always becoming someone else. In the past, you have been stingy. In the past, you have been immoral. And unless you get out of the samsaric trouble, in the future, again, you will be stingy, you will be immoral, And this other person who now you are looking down upon, they might be moral, they might be generous. So what does that mean? Well, it means that in the future you will feel bad about yourself because you were conceited before. Now you will feel bad about yourself because the other person is better than you. So you can see it doesn't make any sense to compare because we're always changing. Who is the real you? Is the real you the one you are now or the one you are tomorrow? Is the real you the one you are tomorrow or the week after or the year after or next life or in the past life? There is no real you. We're always changing. One life you get reborn in Malaysia, the next life you get reborn in Australia, then you get reborn in Norway, then you get reborn in Africa, then you get reborn in Japan, then you get reborn on Mars, for goodness sake, yeah? You reborn as a small green person on Mars with little antennas coming out. That would be kind of scary. I'm not sure if I would recommend that. So we always moving around. One life you are rich, one life you're poor, one life you're smart, another life you're stupid, one life you are handicapped, one life you're not, one life you are, one life, you know, we're always moving around, always changing. So how can you judge? How can you say one person is better than the other one? In the past, I sometimes like to think about my own past. Who have I been in the past? I think it is quite likely that I was a Buddhist monk in the past. Maybe I was a Buddhist nun in the past. Who knows? Where would I have been a Buddhist monk? Well, some must have been somewhere in Asia because Buddhism only came to Europe quite easily. So imagine if I was a Buddhist nun in Asia in a past life. And when I start to think like that I maybe was a Buddhist nun in Asia in the past life, I start to think of myself in a very different way. Who am I? Am I really European? Am I male? Am I even a monk? What am I? And you realize you are all of these things. They're all inside of you. You're already part of you already. And when you think like this, it stops you being conceited. It stops you comparing yourself to other beings and other people because all of these things are already part of you. And they are waiting to come out again in the future as well. If I don't make an end of this problem, it's going to come back again. So how can you be conceited? How can you discriminate against anyone? How can you think that other people are inferior or superior for that matter, or even equal? You're not even equal because you're always changing. And this is a very powerful way of thinking. So when you see someone who is very stupid in this life, who is stingy or whatever, have a sense of compassion for them, but know that in reality they're no different from you because they can change so fast and suddenly the positions are reversed. Never think that you are better. Never think that you are worse. And then you are on the right track. Look at other people with compassion. Look at yourself with compassion. Know that we have all been there. We're going to go there again in the future. Then you're thinking in the right way. Okay.
Ajahn, how does one confirm one has entered the stream? Does one need confirmation?
You don't need confirmation, but if you have any doubt, you have not entered the stream.
Thank you. Regarding the last sutta, MN 64, why give up only the 5 lower fetters and not all 10 fetters? Do we not need to overcome all 10 fetters to be truly liberated? If so, why overcome only the 5? How do we overcome the 5 higher fetters?
I think the point is just that this path leads to one of two results. It leads to overcoming the 5 fetters or the 10 fetters. And whether you become one or the other will depend on the qualities at that time, depends on your attachments, depends on what you're holding on to. It is hard to know sometimes whether, you know, the result of the path will kind of manifest in different ways for different people. Of course, if you do overcome the 5 and not the 10, then you can continue your practice until you overcome the 10. But the initial result of this practice is either 5, overcoming 5, or overcoming 10 fetters. Yeah, that is the initial result. If you're not happy with the initial result, well, then you go on to you carry on, and then you get the full result down the track. Yeah. But there's some remnant of attachment there, some remnant of I am, or whatever, which stops you from going all the way, at least initially. Yeah.
Yeah, Ajahn, it's really great and blissful to have you these 5 days sharing the precious gems of Dharma and your enormous compassion with us. My heart filled with deep gratitude. I have to admit that though being inspired in some way, yet not able to digest everything you taught. What's your advice for follow-up? Humbly bow to you, 1, 2, 3. May you always be well and happy.
Okay, that's very kind of you. Thank you for those kind words. It's always nice to have satisfied customers. You know, we are into customer service in the Buddhism, so that's good. So that's great. So follow up, just keep on practicing, keep on enjoying the Dhamma. The most important thing is to enjoy this practice. Keep on coming back to the teachings. Remember, I always like to say that there's only one thing that you really need to remember on the Buddhist path, and that is kindness. If you can remember kindness all the time in everything you do, you're going to go a very, very long way on this path. So try to remember kindness. How can you remember kindness? It's easy to forget, right? In daily life, when the things get very busy, it's very easy to forget that every moment should ideally be a moment of kindness. The way to remember that is to always come back to these teachings. Come back to teachings that inspire you, whether they are teachings by a teacher like Ajahn Brahm or maybe myself sometimes, but especially the Buddha, when you read the word of the Buddha. Any other teacher that inspires you, that you know teaches in the right way, in accordance with the suttas, at least very close to the suttas. So this is very important because this is required to remind yourself of what the path is about. Yeah, and if you haven't got that reminder, then kindness will go out of the window. So you generally just keep on brainwashing yourself. Yeah, clear out the junk, wash the brain, and get conditioned into the Dhamma. So you see things in accordance with the Buddha, and then the path will flow as a consequence. That is, I think, the basic suggestion I would make.
Thank you, Ajahn.